Awesome. So who wants to go first?
I can.
All right, we can go.
I chose Plickers. Um, I like I wanted to look at this one because a lot of the Carroll County curriculum has questions built into their like already made PowerPoints on topics, and in there they have questions that require things called clickers, but they're either being phased out or there's just not enough available for all classrooms. So I don't have one. So every time I go to look at the PowerPoints they already have set up for it, I either have to take them out, like I have to revamp the PowerPoint, take them out, or find some other way to use these questions as an informal assessment without the clickers. So I don't really have that opportunity to look to see to get that feedback from my students quickly. So the way clickers works is on your phone. It's Android or Apple, either way. And so the way it works is you print out like a set of cards, and they're like QR scan things. So depending on the way the student holds them, it will show that they either selected A, B, C, or D. So what you can do is you print the set of cards and each student is assigned a number on the cards. So like student 1 would be Joe, student 2, Billy, what have you. So you like enter their names in according to their card numbers, and then you can make questions. They can either be multiple choice or true or false. And then you can actually display the question on your board. Like I could have my phone and use it almost like a remote control for the app, and still have, I think it's called like the live version on your computer, so that it displays the questions on your projector for the students to see. There's also an option on there where within the live screen you can have the question, and then next to it you can have how the students answered so the students can see it. I'd probably stray away from that just because one of the things I liked about this was the fact that you can answer anonymously. Like all the students, their cards, they're not configured the same. So like if one kid held their card up this way, that would be like for A, but another kid held it that way, it could be for B, so on and so forth. They have different patterns, I guess. So once you display I would then take my phone and go around and just like quickly scan like the room, and you can scan, it'll pick up the cards depending on the orientation that they're holding it in to see how they answered. So some of the strengths I liked was that all students can participate. It's not a matter of getting someone to raise their hand, which I've quickly realized, well, my honors kids are all about it. They love volunteering answers. My slightly lower level, for one person. So it's no need to feel self-conscious. Like if you get the answer wrong, as long as you don't have that aspect of the live version on display, which I wouldn't prefer, no one's gonna know. It gives only I'm gonna know. So I could say like if I get the answer back and I see a couple people picked C for some reason, but C wasn't correct, I could I could go through why C wasn't the right answer without saying, "Hey Joe, you got this wrong. Here's why." None of the kids at all. Also, it's no need for the kids to have the smartphones or for them to log in on the computers, which takes forever, at least in my classroom. And plus, I only have 8 computers. I have 30 kids. That's not going to work. Some of the weaknesses that I thought about was kids are still going to ask their neighbors for the answer. Regardless of they can't really tell unless they are really looking closely to see what answer their neighbor chose, they're still going to say, is it A or B, because they still don't want to be wrong, even if I'm the only one seeing it. So that's about it. I really liked it just for the sheer fact that a lot of the PowerPoints I've come across have that kind of aspect in it, but I haven't been able to use it to its full benefit.
One of the things that I noticed about the Plickers, based on what I've heard from other people and from what I saw online, is, I mean, yeah, it's somewhat anonymous, but depending on how you print out and cut out the QR codes, students, 'cause for example, so like, in the past, when I first heard about it, the teacher, I mean, she printed it out on two QR codes per sheet. So when she cut it in half, it was a rectangle. So sometimes we're able to kind of see, all right, a lot of people holding it vertically or horizontally, so that they could still see kind of what their other students were responding as. Because I mean, typically they're all somewhat the same orientation. And then the other thing is whenever she had trouble scanning a student's code, when she said, all right, so put it back up or um, hold on a second, didn't scan, then people would know that it was that student's response because after she was trying to score that, then that student's response popped up before she moved on to the next one. So it was kind of obvious then when it was that student's response.
As far as the holding it vertically or horizontally, when I looked at the like the PDF file of the QR, different to me. Like they all had distances almost. They would have like some would have pieces like jutting out. The other ones would have like concave. So I don't really see how vertically or horizontally it would matter.
I mean, it'd be an easy fix. I mean, just make sure you cut it out as a square, but like some teachers who don't bother doing that,
Oh, okay.
or trying to make sure that they are all the same or that they're all different, it would make an impact. Because she said that when she was looking at all of her QR codes, all the A's would be the students holding it vertically, long ways up, and then all the ones that would be horizontally. I mean,
Okay.
so I mean that's kind of what she was talking about when.
Okay.
It's actually like almost similar to what one of the teacher that I work with right now, she uses Quizlet, and she'll let the students sign on, and they created their own names and stuff, but she knew who they were, and it would take quizzes real quick, and they almost made it into a game. They kept getting really excited, and they were trying to make it a competition, but obviously the test scores showed that result. But then I mean the students had fun with it, and that was a really neat tool to see actually, because I mean she had it up on the projector screen, and they were able to see their results and see who was winning, and they had fun with it. So it's almost like that. I mean, and it doesn't involve flashcards or anything. They were even sitting on their cell phones and signed on and just quizzing on that. And it would ask them a question, and they had answers, and they just had to pick. So they had, I mean, that's what it reminds me of at least. That's another option too.
I've
Yeah.
learned that as far as the game slash competition thing, I have honors Chem 1, and that works very well with them. They're very competitive. When you get down to my level 6 standard class, they could care less about competition games because they have no initiative to be, I don't want to say better than one another, but to better themselves rather. They have no initiative. They would see it as something blasé. But my honors kids, they freak out if we play any kind of game or there's any kind of competition involving a score.
It's probably because of their mindset where they just feel uncomfortable. Uh, the only thing that I've noticed, because I mean, even with our students, a lot of them are called HAL students, higher able learners. They're like the honor students. They we kind of do like an incentive thing just to make it fun and say, look, we're going to do this for fun, but we want to see where you are, if you're prepared for the test, and if we need to work on things, we can work on things. But like she has like this goodie box, and even for students that aren't Hell learners and they lack that initiative, they're still like willing to at least push themselves a little bit more because there's an incentive at the end. It's just a way to get them into a different mindset, because if they're not getting anything out of it, they're going to be like, why am I doing this? This is pointless. But if we say, hey, you try and you can pull something out of the box, then they're like, okay. Like, not saying you have to do it for every class. You know which classes that you don't have to worry about those things. But sometimes it's just a little incentive for them to be motivated a little bit more. They have these little tiny erasers at Five Below that you can buy. So it would work out. Just an idea.
Well, that's good.
I guess I'll go next. So I picked Lino, and well, it's actually Lino It. It's a website that uses sticky and photo sharing, and you can use it on PCs, iPhones, iPads, or even Androids, and even Macs. Students have the ability to take notes wherever they are, since there's convenience of using any type of tool. It allows you to set dates and reminders, even on the sticky notes for the individual task. There's it has the ability to share with your friends, so ideas can be shared by creating a group. Stickies can be used to share files with friends, so even just the individual stickies, you can send them along. Let's see. It's actually used as an online collaboration, brainstorming, and sharing of information. The sticky notes include text, hyperlinks, images, and videos. So once you log on to the website and you sign up, you'll be sent to this dashboard where you can create, edit, and organize your canvases, almost like I think it was called Wall Wishers or something like that. But you can store your favorite canvases, create groups between users, schedule events that can be linked with your Google Calendar, and the walls can actually be set up without logins or passwords, so it's easier to infuse into your lessons. And like I said before, due dates can be assigned to each task. And teachers actually have the ability to comment on the items on the boards and even chat with the users online. And it has even sometimes been used by schools, so teachers can post notices about school events and other information. So, like, seeing that tool, at first I was like, well, this is a little too simple. Kind of reminds me of, like, the timelines that we did where we posted notes and just information, but at the same time I got excited because it's actually a really strong collaboration tool. And one thing that we do as STEM teachers is encourage collaboration, encourage sharing ideas. So when we have a problem, maybe they'll post step by step what they'll do to solve that problem, or how they're going to present their presentation, what steps they went through to get to the point where they could pull everything together. So I found it helpful because it's my way of observing the students, seeing what they're learning, seeing what they're pulling. That way, during the processes, I can make modifications if necessary. I can, encourage group collaboration more. So, like, if they have a problem and they're not comfortable coming to me about an idea, they might feel more comfortable with their friends. So they'll share their ideas with their friends and they can give feedback. So I think it's just a great way for students to feel more comfortable because you're already in a technology environment, so they're definitely comfortable using the technology. Statistics actually found that they actually figure out more about this website within 15 minutes. They're capable of learning everything. So I found like using technology in my classroom that students really get motivated. So maybe this is an alternative way for them to take notes, to share ideas, to get more involved in the classroom than when like there's some students that just don't feel comfortable talking to other students. So this way it creates an environment where they can feel a little more comfortable about sharing information. So as far as assessments, I just think that when I have assignments and everything that I want to complete, then I can observe what they're doing and have a discussion on it and be able to see how they're working with each other, and I can just see what kind of environment they're creating for themselves and what they're getting out of my lessons. So I just found like it doesn't cover everything. I can put exit slips on it and I can use different assessment forms that they can incorporate into this. So it's not limited. It's still like a virtual environment where they are putting their ideas. Like if I said, at the end of the lesson, what did you learn? Put it on a sticky note. And they put it on a sticky note and they share it. Then I'm able to see, hey, here's an exit slip. Here's a form of assessment. Or if they did like mind maps, then they could put that on a sticky note because it's a picture or whatever they want. Still, any type of assessment that I want to use, it can still be incorporated into this. So I thought it was at first too simple, but now I'm seeing like the potential of what it can do. And it's just another form of a class environment inside and outside of the classroom.
So can you access it on like devices and computers, or is it just one of the?
No, you can access it on iPads, iPhones, Androids, Macs, anything. So
Okay.
it's convenient at all times. And I actually liked it because if students are out, then their group peers can share their ideas and the student still has access to that information and still can be involved in it. So, nobody's left out. And with due dates being set, it sets a reminder to the students because it can hook up to their Google calendars. And right
Mhm.
now, Google Classroom is really a huge thing in the classrooms that's helpful. So I think that, it keeps them organized and on task and aware of them being more proactive about their own education too.
Okay. Because I mean, with a lot of my students, it's the biggest thing for if I were to implement any note taking or anything like that using technology is how easy is it for to use for them, because they get really frustrated whenever they use new technology and it's difficult or confusing for them right off the bat, because then they'll immediately turned off by technology and they don't want to learn how to use it. They don't want to try it out. They just don't want to use it anymore. And so a lot of times it's with anything, it's either I have to from the very beginning, step by step, break it down even further than anything. Like, all right, this is where you go log in. This is where you go to type in stuff and things like that. But I mean, because you said it was really easy to use and easy to learn, right?
Yeah, they had posted that it takes them about 15 minutes to master it. And like looking at it, it's really convenient. And I think students will get a little more motivated because they can customize it. And because of them being able to share ideas and everything, like they share all their information through this. I think it's a little different, especially if you make it an assignment to say, hey, for homework, explore this website, and I want you to, create a canvas, or like you can create a group for them, and then so they don't have to use any logins or anything. They just have to go to this website and be part of a group and just say, I want you to each post ideas on here about a certain topic. That's one way to get them started. So
Hmm.
it's not like you can sit there and say, you have to create your own canvas, you have to do your thing immediately. You can just slowly inch into it.
Okay.
Kind of sounds like a more hands-on and interactive for the students, as opposed to like Edmodo is more teacher-based. That's kind of what I'm picking up on. It's because it involves the students taking the initiative to post their ideas rather than them just going on Edmodo to take some quiz that I put up for them assigned or something like that.
Right. Like they're becoming more responsible for their own work, but
Mhm.
we're still having access to see where they're at, because it's going to really help us understand, like, for our learners that have more difficulties, it teaches us, like, okay, this is where they need help with. But yet, if we create these groups where they start doing group assignments with it, then maybe those students are going to help them. So it's not like they're going to be alone in it. They're going to have feedback from all sorts of areas, teachers, students, and with the house students, um, the honor students, they're going to want to challenge themselves. They're going to take it to a whole new level, depending on what the topic is or what you want to get out of it. They're just going to, post, and, you can even, put a feedback, like maybe you want to explore this idea and incorporate that into a project. Because I know with our house students, they get these like QR cards, like you were talking about, and they have to scan it, and they have a question, and they have to answer it. So you have to take them to a whole new level. With this, it's like you can provide immediate feedback and say, let's take it to this step. So, you still can challenge your students when they need to be, and for the students that, you know, need a little extra, you can still communicate with them and say, hey, like, you have a great idea here, but let's go here. And just give them, assign them a task, and they can still explore it. But it's them creating their own comfortable environment where they can go explore, have fun, be creative, and they're customizing their canvases. So they're already feeling like this is their world. You know. So I thought it was really great because, you know, I I still put my effort in, but it shows me, you know, what type of skills they're ready to develop. It shows me like they're being more proactive, or they need a push, or it shows me what I need to do for them without me telling them. It's me viewing it, and then I can have a discussion with them later on.
Interesting. All right. Do we want to add anything else for that one, or should I move on to mine?
I'm good.
All right. So the one I did was Socrative. So I mean, similar to the Plickers, it's kind of an assessment tool. The students, they can log on with their phones, and then they can answer questions on a quiz. And the thing that I like about it is you can add lots of different types of questions on it. So I mean, you can do true, false, multiple choice, a couple of short answer. So I mean, it gives you a lot more freedom with what kind of questions you want to ask. So it's not just the lower DOK level questions where it's just reciting from memory what it is. So you can actually start to ask them more in-depth questions that really probe what their students' understanding is for all the stuff. And so also you can log on from the computer as well. So I mean, students don't have a phone, you can always do that. Um, but the thing is, if you don't have computers in your classroom, and then students don't have a phone, then you're left with them having to share or not being able to use this tool at all. So it really depends on the technology in the classroom that you have about whether or not this would be useful. But like when you log in, the students will have to put in a room code. So similar to Kahoot, where you had to put in a code so that only your students go on to your quiz at that time. And that way you can also separate between your classes as well. And then so you can do kind of like a quick questions or an exit ticket through the Socrative app, which is nice because it just makes it really easy to do that. And then to kind of get a students into it and kind of get them active in the quizzing, you can do what's called a space race, which kind of is like each person has their own little rocket ship, and then as they go through and answer the questions on the quiz, and when they get right, their rocket moves forward how much distance based on how many questions there are. So it's kind of a race to the finish for that option. So it kind of takes the quiz and turns it into a game for the students, so that it doesn't seem like they're just taking a quiz. So they may enjoy it a little bit more. Um, what I don't like about the Socrative is, again, that it requires the use of, if not everyone in your classroom has a smartphone, then you're going to need computers in order for students to use this. But then if you have them log on to the computers, that kind of takes away some time waiting for the computer to boot up, then log in, then have them log into the Socrative website, and so on. So it can really detract, and it's not really. It takes away from it's what it's meant to be as kind of like a quick, easy way to assess the students. So if you end up doing that, then it kind of takes away from a lot of time that you can use for either using a different assessment tool or um, doing teaching more in the lesson. What I do like about it is that you can create your own quiz, or you can import a quiz that another teacher created. So, for example, like if one of the other teachers in your department, for example, maybe they created a really good Socrative app for a review for the chapter test. So instead of you having to recreate it, or them giving you a copy of all the answers, they can just import their quiz directly into your dashboard. And then you can also see reports from all the prior assessments. I mean, if you want to show progress for maybe like an SLO or something, you can show them, all right, so these are my formative checks that I used throughout the lesson to gauge if I need to make any changes to my teaching or not, and so on. I already talked about the different types of questions. So I mean, there's true, false, multiple choice, short answer. So it's all in all, it's to me, this is kind of like a more serious looking Kahoot, I guess, is a way to look at it. Because when they both use the smartphones and computers to assess the students through a quiz, Kahoot is a little more fun looking, I guess you could describe it that way. It's more visually appealing. Socrative is just kind of looks all business. Um, and another thing also that I've just remembered now is when you do the quiz, you can show the live responses, but you can also disable the student's name so that responses are anonymous. So back to like that Plickers um, advantage. That you can also do the same thing with this. You can randomize the question and answer order, so that way you don't have to create a different form for each student, or you don't have to show the same question for everybody so that they can discuss when you don't want them to. So that's nice. And then um, for the what do you see when you look at the results? You see the names and their responses and whether it was true, right, or wrong in a nice, easy, color-coded green for right, red for wrong. So they make it pretty easy to use. I mean, because I was playing around with it the other day, and in like 5-10 minutes, I was able to make like a quick like 5-10 question quiz just to play around with it.
It seems like a really interesting tool, especially since you can customize it and use the questions that you want. Is it strictly like just quizzes, or does it have you can assign an assignment like that type of deal, or is it just strictly you know, uh, I guess you can use it as like formative or summative, either way, but does it do more?
Well, the thing is, it's more of a assessment tool because it's mostly giving quizzes. But I mean, you can use it as form check, just kind of, for example, for the exit ticket. If you click the exit ticket button on your dashboard, it automatically uses 3 preset questions. So it's how well did you understand the day's materials? It kind of gives them a multiple choice answer, ranging from like I understand it completely to I am completely lost. So that way you can understand where the students are at that point. And straight answer like what did you learn today, and then you can ask any question for the third one that you want to check their understanding. So I mean, they make it pretty simple to use it quickly as a formative check. So I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't use that exit ticket during the middle of the lesson to gauge their understanding and then see what they learned so far to adjust the rest of your lesson for that day.
Mhm. That's awesome.
Did you get the new update about what technology is allowed in Carroll County?
I did. I didn't take a look at which ones were and were not
So
allowed. I heard Kahoot is possibly not allowed anymore.
Kahoot's gone. So the problem that I heard with Kahoot, which is what I'm a little concerned with, why Socrative is still okay. I'm not like a legal person, obviously, but Kahoot is gone apparently because once you make a question in Kahoot, it's then Kahoot's property. And because we're generally probably making these Kahoots on Carroll County's time, technically it's Carroll County's property, but then Kahoot's taking it. I don't know if the same thing will happen with Socrative because Socrative, yeah, like you said, you can search for other people's quizzes that they've made. So I don't know how, like legal wise, if that one will stay in effect to be allowed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the same concept because the reason I've never used either one, mainly because I know a lot of not all of my kids do have the smartphones, or they're going to give me the excuse, the Wi-Fi's slow, I don't have any data, but yet 2 seconds later, they're going to be texting or on Facebook. So, that's a whole other story. But I'm just concerned that, honestly, I don't want to fall in love with one of these things and then Carroll County takes it away from me.
I used Kahoot last quarter
Mhm.
for my review for a test, and I mean, they enjoyed it. I mean, I heard stuff like, it's not fair, my phone's slow, it's still on the loading screen, yada yada yada. I mean, really, I just tell them it's just a review game. You don't. It's as long as you still see the question on the screen and you know the right answer or not, then that's all that really matters.
Right.
They got into it, but now they can't use it anymore. That's why I really started to look at Socrative about whether or not it would be useful. I mean, I think as long as it stays available, I would love to make um, use Socrative as my review again because I really like their space race feature that they have because like you can choose whatever quiz you want. You can make teams. You can auto assign teams, so you can make teams where you can have it do it individually, and then when they show up on the screen, you don't see the names of the students, even if it is individually. It just shows the colors of each rocket, so it's still anonymous. It's like no one's gonna know for example, who's the blue rocket, or why is the red rocket so far behind. No one knows who it is. So students won't really feel embarrassed or anything that maybe they're not doing as far as well as their other peers.
Yeah, kids are pretty tore up about Kahoot being gone. That was like a big topic of conversation on Friday.
Yeah, I didn't even tell my students.
Well, they came in telling me, like, "Did you hear?" I was like, "No."
Well, I guess I really, really like Kahoot then.
Yeah, which makes me want to try Socrative at least to give them an alternative.
Yeah, because in the past, I b- I forget who it was, but one of my teachers I used to work with, she said that she found like a little database of like a whole ton of quizzes that other teachers have made for various science topics. And now that I'm probably going to use Socrative over Kahoot, I really want to try to find that database somewhere.
Well, you can always use like the questions from other, like if they're concerned with like copyright of someone else's test or anything, you can still use the ideas of those questions and just modify it because now that like that DOK stuff is becoming huge because the teacher I'm working with, she's going for her master's in administration, and that was one of the things they brought up was the DOK, and it's new to them, and they're getting all this information on STEM now, and she was like, we're now being more mindful of how we word things. So even just using the DOK information that we have and modifying it accordingly and just taking ideas like you see a question, on photosynthesis or whatever the topic may be, and just saying, just wording it around, then you're not even copywriting it. But if that was a huge issue, you would think that they would incorporate like maybe a release, like I give permission to so and so to use my test. You know what I mean? Like, you would think, you would just think they would have that idea, but why make the resources there if you can't use it? So before they even get rid of it, I would take advantage of it because, I mean, it does save in time because most of our time is reading and developing ideas and questions and putting everything together. So, I mean, if it's, measuring what you want to measure, then I don't see why it should be a wrong idea to use it in any county. So, it sounds like a fun thing to use, honestly.
Hmm. I mean, I think if the reason why Kahoots is gone is because it's like that. I have a feeling Socrative, because when I didn't read through kind of their nitty-gritty details, I mean, it's the same idea behind it, so I don't see why they both wouldn't be not allowed. unless Socrates says somewhere that they don't take ownership of the
Right?
stuff.
Technology is just an empty subject because it's so sensitive, and there's just so much out there that students have access to.
Hmm.
So it's one of those things like you want to encourage it because that's the popular thing, but it's also like where could they take it? So you kind of have to have a mindset of what your students are capable of finding. So maybe with Kahoot, something came across with the student, and then they were like, "Oh, let's not risk it." So
Hmm.
who knows? It's just one of those things you can't control.
Yeah, that's true. And then the other thing that I liked about the company that is behind Socrative, this is kind of random, but Bobby posted this before, but they make the Common Core and NGSS science apps that have all the standards kind of right there on your phone, which is awesome. And then I just found out that they also have a state core standards one. So like you can look at Maryland under science kind of what the students should be learning based upon what state you're teaching in.
Hmm.
So a little random, but I really like those two apps that they make.
I know they're coming out with something new next year. God, I forgot what it was. Frederick County has to adopt these new standards for next year, and everybody's getting overwhelmed because they're like, it is so much information, but it's almost like STEM. Like you have to explain everything and present everything, and it started with a Q. I forgot what it was called because they just had a meeting on this and they said effective next year it's being implemented. So I heard about it and Anne had told me about it too, but it just slipped my mind recently.
I know they're gonna start like how there's Park and the HSAs. There's gonna be an NGSS like state assessment. They're gonna start rolling it out within like the next 4 years. So like the first 4 years that students take it, it's not really gonna count because it's just gonna be where they'll collect their initial stats from. But that's gonna be happening soon.
Yeah, I know whatever. It was probably that. It's probably exactly that because they were saying that they're adopting it next year.
Yeah, and some of it's gonna have like environmental science in it because
Mm.
we were talking about how some of it's going to be put into like chemistry, like earth science. More earth science is going to have to be put into the Chem 1 curriculum, and then biology is going to have to pick up environmental, and I guess physics will have to pick up some kind of earth as well in order to hit all those standards for when the kids take that um, test.
Yeah, makes sense. Guess they want like all fields of science like combined.
Hmm.
Interesting. Yeah, things are changing.
Oh, definitely.
Well, that's what we have to be used to because one thing I've learned about from these teachers is that it's never going to stay the same.
No.
Like you think about how we grew up and like our forms of assessment were physical written tests, like we had to, answer for ourselves and now it's like we're online, you can do the assessments and there's just a lot more forms of assessment today because it's like I don't know about you, but I didn't even learn about exit tickets until like recently because we didn't do those in school. We did our work and then we went on our way. I didn't have a teacher say write down a thing that you learned. We didn't do that. We just took notes on what the teacher, either presented or on PowerPoint, and then we went to our next class. But today it's like we have mind maps and we have, well, we use Venn diagrams, but you have the exit tickets, you have more interactive tools, and it's going to just add up. There's always going to be some way we can, find a new way that a student has learned. Um, I just think it's great to be open minded.
Hmm. Oh, do you have anything else you want to add?
I'm good.
I'm good too.
Awesome.
Alright, I'll send you guys the link because I think they want us to all submit individually.
Yeah,
Okay.
'cause I was just going to include the link in my review tool paragraph paper thing.
I think isn't there a link in Module 6 where you have to submit it though?
Yeah.
Is it? Because I
Yeah.
didn't see that.
Yeah, it's in the next week's module. It says Google Chat link or something.
Yeah.
So make sure you put it there. Great.